Okay, now I want to rant about Litgenstein, that egomaniac freak.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're a bit late to the party on this one. So, Litgenstein, also known as Path Integral Salesman, wickrotate, and many other names, is gone now after being humiliated and exposed on Twitter. And look, I'm not a big fan of the drama stuff, but we need to talk about some of this because it confirms what I'd already been saying about him. So, first of all, it was revealed that he's a fraud. He's been lying about his academic history. I'm not going to go into too much detail here. There's a lot to keep track of, but the short version is that his physics background is made up. There are multiple universities that he claimed to have went to that he actually didn't, including Oxford. And he also lied about teaching courses. Yeah, well, I never believed the guy. So this is exactly what I had suspected. I have a video in which I said he's just posturing that he got his education on Twitter and that he relies on fake expertise. And I had just assumed this was the case, well, for a number of reasons. I mean, even at a glance, the fact that he had tens of thousands of tweets and was talking about binge watching anime, it just didn't give the impression that he was this polymath ultimate intellectual that he claimed to be. But anyway,
Well, there was one thing that kind of took you by surprise that you were wrong about, right? Uh,
right,
you
his
thought,
field.
yes, you thought he was
Yeah.
posturing when it came to philosophy stuff, which he was. You thought his background was in physics and not in philosophy.
Yes, right. I should have been more clear about that. His physics is what he lied about. He apparently is or was a philosophy student or something to that effect.
Yeah.
It's just that he was so bad at philosophy that he seemed fake. What it turns out is that he is apparently he's studied it in college, but he didn't learn anything, and everything he learned about it is on Twitter, and he's just a fucking idiot. So he's so bad at it that he seemed fake. So now, the physics stuff though is just made up, right? He didn't do physics.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think there were some physics people on Twitter who had their suspicions about him.
oh yeah, yeah. That happened a long time ago, actually. People who knew about physics, or at least one guy who knew about physics, kind of exposed him. Was like, yeah, he doesn't really know what he's talking about. But anyway, yeah, I never cared about the physics thing. It does not surprise me that he lied about that. So yeah, it's confirmed, and everyone knows he's a fraud. So that's good. And in light of all that, I want to harvest as much joy as possible from these made-up bios that he wrote about himself. I've got some of them pulled up here. His Twitter bio, it lists his areas of expertise. This is funny: quantum fields, numerical relativity, philosophy of science, climate, and formal epistemology. You know, some of these totally unrelated. Just these really technical subfields that sound really smart, right?
Yeah.
It makes him sound like a badass. That's why he did it.
But also he was teaching classes from like meta ethics to
Right.
like, I don't know, quantum mechanics or some bullshit.
Um. Yeah, I can't remember all of it, but yeah. Oh yeah, I think he did say he was teaching quantum something. Yeah. And by the way, his Twitter bio, that's where Rem got his idea from. Rem modeled his Twitter bio after Lichtenstein's. That's why Rem's, is just a list of fancy shit. It's like, oh, this makes me look smart. And I have another bio thing that he wrote of himself. And
real quick.
Oh yeah.
Rem also does the thing that Lichtenstein is guilty of, where
what's that?
he'll list all these locations he's maybe been to. I don't really know. Lichtenstein's been to Korea, Japan, all over the world.
Yeah, it's not worth bragging about when look, your rich parents, bought you bought you a ticket somewhere.
They took you on their private plane.
Yeah, it's not interesting. Oh my goodness. It's pathetic. So anyway, I kind of look at this other bio is even funnier. Because, I mean, just look at these fake-ass research interests that he wrote about himself.
Oh, yeah.
This one. Wilsonian renormalization and the extension of renormalization techniques into fields outside of physics, such as ecology and genetics, other things that he's an expert in, of course. Mathematical modeling, specifically physics avoidance strategies like coarse graining, model reduction, etc. Then it gets into philosophy, the history and philosophy of physics, mostly high energy physics and relativity. The high energy physics, that sounds even more prestigious. That sounds really smart. Mm-hmm. Inconsistency in science, scientific realism, the role of mathematics in science, the relation between mathematization, maturity, empirical adequacy, and other virtues. Okay, so yeah, a real smart guy. He's an expert in everything.
Yep. And
he got this knowledge from, I don't know, he tweeted tens of thousands of times. He watched every episode of One Piece. Oh, boy. So that's not all, though. That's not all that he lied about. He another thing that came out, and this to me is funny, well, it's disgusting, but it's also funny, is he lied about his race, right? And we suspected this. We already knew this, right? He's been pretending to be Korean. And that's why he called himself Zach Kim, which is not his real name.
Yeah, I thought that was just like an internet handle or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about this, and yeah, I remember saying, like, that's a weird name for a white guy, right? Because he's obviously white. But we thought maybe, like, he's just obsessed with that culture, so he's gonna. I didn't know he was. Apparently, he's actually telling people, "No, I'm part Korean" or something, which he's not.
Yeah.
And this to me is revolting, really, that he's such a weeb, and whatever the Korean version of a weeb is, right?
Well, he's a weeb, but
he is a weeb.
Yeah, but being half Koreans, it's easier to get away with that than saying he's half Japanese, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's probably a word for a person obsessed with Korean culture.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he's that too, right?
Yeah.
So he's telling people that he's Korean when he's just a white dude, right? And not only that, though, he lied to people and said he talked about growing up poor or being poor or something when he actually has rich parents, which is another thing I've said about him. I just already knew that. So anyway, so we had planned to do this stream, and I knew I was going to rant about this guy. I was going to joke about this stuff, right? I was going to talk about how he's full of shit, and he hasn't studied or read nearly as much as he claims, and how he has rich parents, and his rich parents are paying all his weeb-related expenses while he pretends to be teaching classes and shit. Now, I'm still going to do all of that, of course, but it's all old news now, because this thing went down like a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago or something, when he got exposed.
Yeah.
And it completely slipped by me. I wasn't paying attention. He's blocked all my accounts, right? So I just looked this up recently, right? We were going to do this stream earlier, but then I found out that he disappeared, and I was like, oh, okay, let me figure out what happened, right? And then my internet fucked up the day that we were going to record this. Mm-hmm. And then after that, you got sick, and so yeah, that's what happened. That's why we're so late with this fucking thing.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed, right? He's still gone.
Yeah, he's withering away in a bunker somewhere.
In a bunker. In his parents' mansion.
Yeah. Safe.
Fuck him.
Fuck him.
All right. So look, when I went after him at first, and I mean, I didn't know the guy. He's never said anything to me. I just saw him and targeted him, right? And I made a video about him. I was tweeting about him, and some people didn't understand why I was going after this guy so aggressively. And well, this is why. I mean, I knew he was a really terrible person. Even on the surface, the guy just seemed like a psychopath, right? He was constantly bragging. The narcissism was off the charts. One of his tweets was something like, do you remember this one? He's like, so I was doing squats at the gym, and some student came up to me asking for help with his differential equations homework.
Yeah.
That totally made up a story.
Yeah, that tweet also is in between the dozen or so selfies he posts a day of him flexing, holding a physics book.
Yeah. So it has to flex in every picture. Like, people can see that. They know that, like, why are you doing that? Like, just full of himself.
Yeah.
He's flexing. He's got the physics book he's never read. It was just cringy and pathetic.
Yeah, and just totally superficial. And like, if you were a normal person, you could see what's going on there. It's just totally shallow, totally psychopathic, narcissistic.
Yeah, it should have been obvious, right?
Yeah.
To me, it was obvious. I noticed immediately, but a lot of people somehow just didn't realize how much of a smug asshole this guy was. Like, when he'd be arguing and he would say things like, "I'd be happy to send you some intro texts," or, he'd say, "Feel free to come sit in on one of my classes." They just didn't notice how obviously patronizing that was. So yeah, I recognized that it was outward malicious and egomaniacal behavior, but I also knew there was more to it than that. So that's why these revelations, do not surprise me. I knew he was just a horrible person. But his friends, Rem the Bath Boy and Last Positivist, who are just complete abominations, they didn't notice anything was off about him.
Yep.
And that just speaks to how mentally warped they are, that they were just gleefully buddying up with this fucking sociopathic, lying piece of shit.
Yeah. No, it does speak to their character that they embraced this guy, and yeah, they were friends with him.
Yeah, I haven't seen them say anything about it since this went down, but yeah, like if you're looking up like stuff about Litgenstein, like some of the most recent things are Last Positivist making dumbass jokes with him. That's his buddy.
Yep.
This fucking psycho and fraud.
Yeah.
Just.
We have scored a direct stab in those sons of bitches' hearts. We gotta keep running the knife in, though, folks. We gotta keep running in there, not worry what they're doing, Dutch. Just, you want to fight? You're getting it.
Yeah.
So anyway, about that video I made, the video I made on him, I'm pretty happy with it. And the point of that video, the video it completely encapsulates his essence. And the point of it was, look, he's not fooling me. I know he's just desperately trying to look smart for attention. So he just opens his science books and he spams every diagram inside. I knew he wasn't well read. I've dealt with plenty of people who learn philosophy from low-life handlers on Twitter, and he's got the same misconceptions as them. Right? I don't even think reading would help him. It would probably just make him more annoying, because every time he sees something, he has to go out into a crowd of people and be like, "Look at what I read. Look how smart I am." Yep. My favorite part of that video, though, my favorite part is when I show that tweet of him saying that logic isn't objective, because that was really the smoking gun. That proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is all a facade and that he's actually completely ignorant on the topic. He's extremely arrogant and stupid, so he overstated his case. He said, he always says this, right? He's always like, all the literature agrees with him. That's what he thinks. And so if you've read any of it, you'll see that he's right. But it's so fucking easy to prove that that's false. And that's kind of where I got the idea that his philosophy background was fake, was just how wrong he was about, what's the consensus of philosophers, right? He thinks his views are mainstream when most philosophers would say they're crazy.
Yeah.
It's not just that, though, that he's completely ignorant of the literature that he pretends to read. But this whole thing, it also shows how bad of a thinker he is, that he couldn't see how obviously ridiculous his views are, right? Like, that logic isn't objective. He just casually and with complete confidence he'd assert that logic is relative without seeing how that's problematic.
Yeah. And not only is his view bad, but also, I think this is more egregious, I think. Well, maybe not in the grand scheme of things, but it's pretty ridiculous that he would treat this this random guy with like such contempt and ridicule for asserting that logic is objective. He acted as if the guy's position is just like obviously false and obviously
when it's the opposite, right?
yeah, he thinks it's just obviously like disregarded by the experts, and yeah, it's all the opposite. Like, no, his position is actually it's based off common sense, and if you talk to most philosophers, at least the ones like I talk to, like they're probably going to say logic is objective. They're going to kind of lean towards that kind of view.
Yeah, that exchange he had with that guy was just deplorable.
Yeah,
and it really made him look bad.
Yeah.
Later, he was talking to that guy. Oh, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say, like, he can get away with that stuff though with, you know, your ordinary person, because he's gonna flaunt these fake credentials.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and he's gonna bully the person into silence or submission.
Yeah, that's a bad argument even when you do have the consensus on your side. Like even if philosophers did agree with him, it would be annoying and it'd just be bullshit to just go around like, look, all the experts agree with me, which in philosophy that's basically never the case, and that's never a good argument, you know? I know Rem thinks it is. I'll say more about that later, maybe in a different video.
Yeah.
But
I think it's fair to point out if someone's being like super confident that like something is established in philosophy, to point out.
Oh yeah, the people he was talking to weren't doing that, though.
Yeah.
No, he's guilty of that.
Yeah, of course.
He's guilty of being completely wrong about what the literature says.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't read it. He reads manga or whatever, however you pronounce it. See, I don't even know how to say it.
I'm sure he'll correct you.
Oh yes, of course, smugly correct him. His real field of expertise.
Yeah, he'll link to a 600-page.
Oh, he has it. I believe that. He's probably read that.
Well, you have that picture in your video. It's as big as him.
Yeah, I don't even know what any of that shit is. I like it. Yeah, you see on Twitter that guy was correcting me about or trying to teach me about that meme I made.
Yeah.
The anime character, and I was like, I made this shit. I don't know what that is. I don't care either.
Yeah.
I was confused as hell when that guy was talking to me. I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know what this is.
He's trying to correct out the motivations of these anime characters.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Was he like the bad guy or something, or the good guy? I don't know. I don't. Oh my. Okay. Anyway. So, but yeah, that guy that he was bullying. Later in that exchange, I saw him talking to that guy, and he said that Litgenstein said that evidence and science are both relative, right? And that this guy Litgenstein is claimed to be a scientific realist.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, like most realists, he talks about how nothing is objective, and his favorite philosophers are Kuhn and Feyerabend.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the guy
defends every postmodern truth that comes out.
The guy, he's not a realist. He's just a relativist piece of shit, right?
And then he had that fucking blog post on scientific realism where it's like an anime RPG's the setup or something.
The fucking blog post.
Yeah.
It showed. Look, he sucked at philosophy, right?
Yeah.
He was so shit at philosophy. I know. He claims to be an expert in like 10 different subfields. He's great at formal meta epistemology and whatever, but look, all he had was that childish, half-written blog post on scientific realism, and you're right. It's deleted now, right?
I can't find it. I think his website's down, or it's just been
the
deleted.
blog or whatever he had. It was some really depraved weeb bullshit. It was something like, imagine you're defending scientific realism. Yeah. But you're an anime girl in an RPG.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get the no miracles argument, and it's a fucking shield or something.
It's like also like the weakest shield or something.
Yeah. It starts with you start off as a naive realist or something. I can't remember this. It was not even finished, and that was all the guy had. So,
yeah.
He sucked at philosophy.
Yeah.
Anyway, where was I? He's a relativist. He's he's claimed that science and evidence are relative when he was talking to that, when he was, trying to show off his authority to that guy. It's just a dumbass thing. I'm just going to rant about just the way he conducted himself in general. It was always awful, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who constantly went around telling people that they need to read the literature and they have no background in physics. Which that one's funny. That one turns out to be bad. Yeah, it was all just projection, right?
Yeah, like that journalist he told to go take a science course.
Okay. Yeah, she was like, this writer for National Review. I have the tweet somewhere. She wrote an article on climate change or something, and he was telling her, he said you need to take a course. I recommend a course on physical chemistry or some shit, right? Something that he's never studied. Yeah. And he's telling some journalist to go do that, as if that's a remotely normal thing to say to somebody over Twitter. Like, you need to go take this science course.
How's that even feasible too? Like, you're working a full-time job and you take this advanced science course. It's not like intro to biology at the community college.
Better go take physical chemistry because Litgenstein told me to, and then maybe I'll write better articles, right?
Yeah, and as if that would change anything either, because he just pulls some bullshit I don't know, just obscure philosophical position or problem on her. Like, she had to solve the dispute between Platonists and Nominalists.
Oh yeah, he loved that one. That was one of his favorites. So I mean, the whole idea, that's not how you criticize someone. That's not how you refute. Like, she wrote a bad article, okay, don't tell her this is the problem, you didn't take physical chemistry. That's not how you respond to it. Just point out whatever the flaws are. Of course, look, the guy, as we know now, he didn't know any science, right? So that's why he was never actually being substantive about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, he talked about Platonism a lot. He liked that one to trip people up, right? He'd trip people up with, he'd nitpick them. He'd use overwhelming jargon. He'd try to shift the discussion to something more esoteric all the time.
Yep.
For instance, he went around asking random people what theory of truth do they subscribe to, and he'd send them links to entire books. Some of these people that he was talking to, some of these people have actual jobs. Yep. They don't have rich parents taking care of them like he does.
Yep.
People like Litgenstein and Rem, they have the privilege of having time to sit around and read. Now, they don't, though. They happen to squander it on social media and anime instead. But other people actually have to work. And one of the guys Litgenstein was bullying, that guy that we were talking about, that he was, logic is relative, evidence and science are relative. That guy was a dishwasher, turns out. Yeah. And so, that just makes me sick. And the funny part about that was the guy who washes dishes sounded way more reasonable than Litgenstein.
Oh, yeah.
That guy, he told Litgenstein, you can use logic and evidence to objectively evaluate beliefs, and Litgenstein mocked him for that truism that any decent philosopher or even just remotely sane person would stand by.
Yeah.
Let's take a moment to talk about how catastrophically stupid Lichtenstein's view is. I remember I replied to him on Twitter. I said, right, it's not objective that the evidence of a round earth is superior to the evidence of a flat earth, because that's what his fucking view entails. God, so dumb. He didn't recognize that. It's all, science is relative, right? Evidence is relative. Any evidence-based belief, it's all relative. It's just incredible.
Well, and the guy is speaking from common sense. It just seems kind of ridiculous to suggest he needs to delve into just all the philosophical literature on that one question, because that just seems that's insane. If the guy was speaking on Platonism just randomly on Twitter, he's talking about it very confidently, but he didn't really know anything about it, okay, maybe he should be reading something about the topic before he confidently talks about it.
But the guy was gonna get to that.
But the guy was just speaking from common sense, and for him to have actually to require him to read the literature on that one topic alone, on whether evidence or logic is objective, that's no one is up to that task except for like a professional philosopher.
Yeah, and again,
Wittgenstein
what
didn't make shit.
Lichtenstein's telling him, like, you haven't read anything, right?
Yeah.
I'm the one who's read everything. Hey, your mic just, what is going on? Did you mute or something?
No. What's wrong with it?
Oh no, it's just that horrible background noise cut out. Now that's
Oh,
a
okay.
good thing. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Wittgenstein's like, no, all the experts agree with me. You clearly haven't read anything. When like, it's not the case that if you start reading about epistemology or something, you're going to find every philosopher is like, oh, and of course, evidence is just all subjective.
Yeah.
Evidence in science is all subjective. Logic is subjective. No, it's the exact opposite. Basically, no one holds that view. It's just a clown position. It's
Yeah.
fucking insane. And as of course, it's just obviously insane. It's completely hypocritical for him. I mean, what does he do? He's constantly going on lecturing people on like climate change and stuff. Well, guess what? Climate change is relative now. He doesn't even realize that he's a hypocrite in that area. He doesn't know what his views entail. He'll say that evidence is relative without seeing how that is crazy. He's just a stupid person. He can't even understand what he's saying.
Well, he's got to argue against the intellectual dark web.
Oh, of course, yeah. Did anything to contradict them.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, why does he argue like this? Why does he suck at arguing? Why does he rely on these fucking just cheap bullshit tactics? And I think the answer is that he had to. He had to rely on these slimy tactics because look at who he's defending. The people he's defending, namely postmodernists, they do so much indefensible shit, right? If it's indefensible, what are you going to do? There's no honest way to defend it. He's got to be an asshole and just cheat, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, he's one of those people. He's bought into that stupid leftist internet myth, which is that no serious person criticizes postmodernism or associates it with relativism. The idea is that if postmodernism is totally reasonable, and if you say otherwise, well, you're like just an illiterate Jordan Peterson fanboy or something.
Yep.
These people, they're really predictable. We know how they typically defend postmodernism by what do? They constantly retreat to the mott. And it's so unconvincing when you know what postmodernists are actually like. The insane quotes from postmodernists are not hard to come by. I could find enough examples of relativism and word salad to last until the sun explodes. There's also no shortage of experts condemning postmodernism. And I sent some of those to Wittgenstein, by the way, before he blocked me. I sent him a bunch of quotes from, real, respectable philosophers, just shit-talking postmodernism. And, I love those remarks. Partly because I know if Wittgenstein saw them, he'd just think, the intellectual dark web did this. This is James Lindsay's doing,
Yeah. My favorite one is, I won't quote it here, but Timothy McGrew talking about postmodernists being, quote unquote intellectual superstars, but they're really these cognitive cripples.
I didn't send him that one. I think I sent him one from Timothy McGrew, though. I should have sent him that one. The cognitive cripples.
Yeah.
That one's funny.
That's one of the best. And he's like this top guy in epistemology, defending our view.
Oh, there's plenty more. But Wittgenstein, Rem, Last Positivist, Cuck Philosophy, all these pieces of shit on Twitter, on internet philosophers, they all hold this view that there's no real intellectual criticizes postmodernism. They're completely full of shit.
Yep.
And more about the postmodern thing, though. There's this double standard I wanted to point out, that these people like Wittgenstein, they'll let postmodernists get away with anything. They let them get away with the most egregious errors, but they nitpick the living hell out of any critics. That's the main thing Wittgenstein would do. He'd go around nitpicking people. A lot of the times the supposed errors were not even real errors. He has that blog post on logic or whatever. He's nitpicking, Gad Sad for using logic in like the colloquial way instead of the like formal philosophical way. That was stupid. But he's constantly nitpicking people, but postmodernists can, relativize science, logic, whatever, and he just lets them get away with it. They can churn out complete word salad, doesn't matter. That's fine. Yeah, he saw that white as empiricism paper, and the first thing he did was he tried to defend it. Of course. That's the way these people behave. And something needs to be said about just the outrageous irony of Lichtenstein calling people cranks. Think about that. He went around he called me a crank. He was always calling people cranks and quacks when he was a fucking fraud who defended postmodernism, the most intellectually bankrupt creation of our species. If anything can be rejected without argument, it's postmodernism. But people like Lichtenstein have it backwards. To them, I'm a crank for not accepting it. So yeah, I mean, they're wrong. I mean, postmodernism is bullshit. They're wrong about what the authorities say on it. There's great epistemologists who think it's bullshit. But not only that, there's people on the left. People on the left who reject standpoint theory and postmodernism, like Noam Chomsky and Ben Burgess. And these people, they aren't degenerate weeb filth who live on Twitter. These are actual, they're respectable people. So what can Lichtenstein say about them? Are they cranks? Are they part of the intellectual dark web? Noam Chomsky,
Alt-right gamer.
Yeah, alt-right gamer Noam Chomsky. He's got no criticism. He's got nothing to do. No way of critiquing them. All he can do is insult people. What's he gonna say? Here's another thing, though. Lichtenstein, Rem, and that savage ogre, last positivist, they would constantly joke about the correspondence theory of truth. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
They were posting about that all the time. No one else is talking about it, right? But they can't shut up about it. But in their thousands of tweets about it, they have yet to make a single substantive point. It's just always stupid shit like, can you believe there are people who hold the correspondence theory of truth? And I'm just like, yeah, I can. You mean the common sense view that all the greatest philosophers have held? Yeah, I can believe that people have held that. This is one of the things that had me thinking that they don't study philosophy, that they've learned the term, correspondence theory of truth. They can't shut up about it, but I don't even know if they know what it is. Like all they do is make bad jokes about it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense either, because they're the ones with the counterintuitive view, an extremely counterintuitive view, all of their views, right?
Yeah.
So why are they the ones who are going around mocking their opponents? Their views, just when you hear them, you're like, okay, you sound like a clown. Like, they have the burden of proof. They're coming at you with this ridiculous view, but all they want to do is make jokes. And Liam, by the way, our last positivist, which he's not even a positivist. I don't know why that's his name. But his twisted ideology, that's what turned him into a fucking swamp troll, which he is. He is this gelatinous Shrek-like creature. He's a fucking monster. So I don't know. Any thoughts?
Well, I was gonna say
I don't know what there is to say after that.
Well, I was gonna say that this format of just listing some philosophical position they disagree with, and then pointing and laughing at it. It's the lowest form of humor. It's the lowest form of any kind of like intellectual work or effort, because it's not funny, it's not smart, and the best proof of that is Lichtenstein's Twitter career, where he would just post these nonsensical, meaningless physics and philosophy memes where no one can make sense of them, but people would laugh at them, retweet and like them. And Lichtenstein didn't know what they meant because his credentials were fake. He was a fraud.
His followers sure as hell didn't know what they meant.
Yeah, exactly. So they're all just staring at this thing, this just pure shit scribbled on the wall. They're having this mass shared delusion at this joke, this physics diagram over a picture of Lilo and Stitch, and they're all laughing at it. There's no humor to be found, no humor, and nothing intelligent about it. That's just the same thing with these like jokes about correspondence theory or whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
pick your
look, those
poison.
are those to me are just astoundingly bad. The correspondence theory of truth, because how is that funny? The correspondence theory of truth, does it sound funny?
No.
No, it doesn't sound funny when you find out what it is. It's like, oh, okay, that's what basically everybody thinks, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing funny about that. I have no idea why would you have to be really fucked in the head to try to make a joke about that, which they are though.
It's the view that like you hear it before you study any philosophy. You hear it and you're like, yeah, like what else would there be? And then you get your mind just warped by horrible
Sophistry.
philosophers. Yeah. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. I'll adopt 5 different views of truth that aren't the correspondence theory.
This hive, this group of freaks on Twitter, you've pointed this out before. They think that Quine and Wittgenstein are the only philosophers.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you're talking about academic Twitter here, right? Philosophy Twitter, right? It's terrible. It's so bad. Twitter, to begin with, is a magnet for people who have something seriously wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about people, though, whose lives are dedicated to Twitter. You get the feeling that these people have no real-world aspirations. It's like whatever it is that they're ostensibly studying, the ultimate goal is just to make bad jokes about it on Twitter.
Yeah.
And Lichtenstein, you could say he took it a bit too far by not even being a real person. His real life wasn't even real. He's basically uploaded his consciousness to Twitter.
Yeah.
So
and he created a character.
He created a character. That's where he is. He deleted his Twitter, so he ceased to exist now. Hopefully, he's just been erased. Yeah, that's him. So yeah, where was I? Oh yeah, the jokes. Lichtenstein's jokes were the worst. Whether you know what he's talking about or not, they're bad, right? And that's one of the things I talked about at the beginning of my video on him, and I really like that part where I go over he's just painfully unfunny, and I showed some of his jokes on screen. Mm-hmm. I didn't read any of them though, and I just want to share his most pathetic joke. This one's in the video, by the way. This is his worst joke, in my opinion. He says, "Personally, I think we should stop saying that particles are field fluctuations and instead call them field twerks."
Yeah, it's a fucking disgrace.
Yeah, it's just the worst fucking joke of all time.
Yeah.
It really is.
I have a hard time saying it's the worst one because his jokes were consistently low quality.
Well, he did. He took, here's some physics stuff, technical terms, and then the word twerk. Okay, twerk's funny, right?
Yeah.
No, it's really not.
Yeah.
And it just pains you to read that joke. You don't have any urge to laugh. You just feel some physical pain, and then you want to do something else. You want to look away from it and think about something else.
Yeah.
And the joke structure, the basic joke structure is always the same with him. And at the last positive, probably use this one as well. The idea is you take, just random technical physics or philosophy stuff, plus random moron speak like yeet or twerk, etc.
Yeah.
And that's the joke. There you go. So I have a joke that I've been working on.
All right, let's hear it.
Oh, it's a good one. It's not. I was on the Wikipedia page for the auger effect, right? And it says, this is a line from it. I'm just going to read the page. It says, "The auger effect is a physical phenomenon in which the filling of an inner shell vacancy of an atom is accompanied by the emission of an electron from the same atom." Okay, that wasn't funny, right? I'm going to make it funny.
Okay.
I'm going to make it fucking hilarious. Listen to this.
Put the Lichtenstein spin on it.
Oh, hell yeah. "The auger effect is a physical phenomenon in which the filling of an inner shell vacancy of an atom is accompanied by the yeeting of an electron from the same atom." It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, there it is.
I should be a comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could be his ghostwriter if he ever comes back.
And yeah, if anyone, you almost use this as a litmus test of sorts. Anyone who laughs at that should just be killed on the spot. Because yeah, they're crazy. There's something messed up with that person.
I won't go that far. We should definitely avoid them at all costs.
Yeah. And when he's making these jokes, you know that he's thinking something like, all right, I'm full of myself. and I want attention. Okay, how do I turn that into a joke? And the answer is you don't. Don't do it. Just don't post it. You have these horrible thoughts, just don't say it. I don't want to have to see it. And
well, the thing about those jokes is like you said it earlier, but if you don't know what he's talking about, it's not funny. And if you do know what he's talking about, it's still not funny. And if you're normal, you can see past all of that, like his attempts at humor, and see them for what they are. Is that it's just him being a narcissist. He's trying to appear to be funny or well-educated, and it's just disgusting.
Yeah. And so yeah, I made that video on him. And I talked about that. I talked about his bad humor and everything. And I tweeted about him. I got blocked by him at least twice, and he started like hiding his feed and stuff. And somewhere around this time, some of his dumbass Twitter followers, who were totally deceived by him, of course, they were insulting me. They were calling me obsessed and stuff, which, yeah, of course, that's what minions say when they don't have an argument. Meanwhile, the dude was tweeting at James Lindsay like 500 times a day, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's only an obsession when you're criticizing someone they agree with. That's how it works. So he can, tweet at the intellectual dark web people constantly when I make, one video and tweet at him like 3 times before getting blocked. Yeah, I'm obsessed.
Well, he's
such a fucking.
He doesn't deserve any criticism.
I mean, yeah, but I didn't say anything to his stupid ass fans after, it was revealed that he was a fake. I could have said, told you so or something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't. I don't know what else there's to say. Yeah, there you have it. Litgenstein, a complete loser, a fucking disgrace, and those are my final thoughts.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I guess I'll end with a little joke I have.
Oh, you got a joke?
Oh, yeah. So here's the thing. You have to picture yourself as one of Lichtenstein's students in his fantasy world.
All right, I'm imagining that.
Okay. So after a long day at the gym, squatting a 600-pound medicine ball on his biceps, and he's getting recognized by everyone on campus. He's in the campus gym doing this.
Recognized as Zach Kim.
Yep. Yeah. Korean physicist and philosopher Dr. Kim walks into your classroom, so you're one of the students. The top of his head is visible over the desk, like a shark's fin peeking through the water. Right? So he reaches the whiteboard, and at the bottom of it he writes Dr. Zachary Kim. And everyone's feeling a bit tense because you're taking, let's see, what's the class title? It's Formal Meta-Epistemology and Quantum Mechanics.
It's the intersection of formal meta-epistemology and Wilsonian renormalization. Something about that.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. It's an intro course. And, so he lightens the mood by writing a nonsensical equation.
Of course.
And he ends it with "fuck you."
That's very funny.
Yeah, and this is something he actually did before. Not that.
Oh yes. I've seen the picture. I believe we have that picture.
Oh yeah. Maybe people are seeing it right now. So the whole class, they burst into laughter and applause, and he's regarded as the funniest, most accomplished, #1 handsome academic.
That really happened. Oh well.
In his mind, it did. Yeah.
Especially the part with the medicine ball.
Yeah.
Squatting 600-pound. What is he doing?
He's squatting a 600-pound medicine ball on his biceps.
On his biceps, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I guess he's holding that physics book too.
He's always holding the physics book.
Yeah, and taking a selfie.
He's always doing those two things, right?
Yeah, and tweeting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, Dr. Kim.
Dr. Kim.
He's PhD in like 10 things, right? He's going in there to teach those kids about the eigenstates of neutrinos.
Yep, at Oxford.
Which he knows so much about with his non-existent background in physics and all the universities that he lied about going to. All right, I think that does it.
Okay.
for this piece of shit.
Yeah, he's done.